Hey everyone, what's going on? So yesterday, one of the big mainstream media articles was that of the death of this Florida rapper named XXXTentacion, or however you pronounce it. And what I'm going to show in this video is how his death, or his supposed death, is absolutely synced up with what is called Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases. And check out some links in the description. I have thousands of videos showing how our mainstream media does this every single day. It is a very, very easy thing to do, and you can learn to apply it for yourself. But, I mean, if you don't believe me, it stems back to Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, and even people such as Roseanne and multiple other celebrities practice Kabbalah. Roseanne's show even just got recently canceled, and it came back, and it was all by the numbers, all connected to the national anthem. That's why it ended on the 231st episode, because national anthem equals 231 in Gematria, and she's saying the terrible national anthem. That's what she's famous for from years past. Anyway, let's look at this guy's death. It was absolutely synced up to the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and he even lives in the same area, and he wrote a tribute song called Hope for the Stoneman Douglas shooting, right? And what's interesting about that is that he died 4 months and 4 days after Valentine's Day, and the word hope in Gematria just so happens to equal 44, a lot like 4 months and 4 days. The word shooting equals 44 in Gematria. The word kill equals 44. Notice too that the word kill also equals 17, and 17 is a really important number in regards to the Stoneman Douglas thing. 17 people died, 17 people injured, they all boycotted school, or, a big thing throughout the United States was that kids left for 17 minutes during class. You had Joaquin Oliver, the 17-year-old victim who got buried really fast on the 17th day, and that is so loud. We'll see what happens here. But he was buried on the 17th day in Dwayne Wade's jersey, and Dwayne Wade born on the 17th day of the year, NBA equals 17, all kinds of 17 stuff that goes along with the, Valentine's Day stuff. Even 17-year-old David Hogg, the kid who's, trying to get the gun rights and whatever else, the gun's supposedly taken away. Remember, we even got the YouTube shooting, and then everybody started getting kicked off of YouTube, and they started cracking down on gun stuff on YouTube, right? And YouTube found it on Valentine's Day. It's just such a joke. The reason 17, though, is more important is because this guy, XXX whatever, he has his debut album, like, that wasn't a mixtape. It was actually called just 17. The number 17, it came out in the year 17. And if you notice, it came out on August 25th. And if you go from August 25th to the St. Valentine's Day massacre, it's 173 days. And this rapper, his name in Gematria just so happens to equal 173. We'll type it out here. Yeah, 173. So he releases this album called 17, 173 days before the Stoneman Douglas shooting on Valentine's Day. His name equals 173. His name also equals 151, which is interesting because if you write out Valentine's Day, it also equals 151. And that album just so happened to also release 151 days before his birthday. Put that in here really quick so you can see it. 151 days before his own birthday. It's synced up to Valentine's Day. It's synced up to his name. But what also is so interesting about that number 17 is that, or 173, like his name, is that's the 40th prime number. And in Gematria, just Valentine's just so happens to equal 40. So 173, the 40th prime number, just Valentine's equals 40 in Gematria. You know, David Hogg equals 40 in Gematria. He supposedly died in a robbery. Robbery equals 40 in Gematria. Then there was also the stuff about him beating up his pregnant girlfriend, right? Pregnant equals 40 in Gematria. Oh, I can't remember her name. It's on here, one of these. Her name, Geneva Alayo, however you say it. How in the world ever you say that? Her name equals 40 in Gematria. Pregnant equals 40. You know, oh, the odds. This debut album, it also, the one called 17, it also came out 9 months and 24 days before he died. And Nicholas Cruz, the Valentine's Day shooter, was supposedly born on 9/24, September 24th. And the reason that that's significant is because Valentine's, with the V exception in Gematria, you have to understand numerology. V is the 22nd letter, so it's what it's called a master number. So you don't have to break it down or whatever. So with the V exception, it can either be 4 or 22. And when you do it that way, Valentine's equals 67 in Gematria, and Nicholas Cruz equals 67 in Gematria. And he was supposedly 19 years old, and the 19th prime number is 67. And in the year 1998, when he was born, he was born exactly 19 weeks before Marjorie Stoneman or after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died. So once again, a connection to the 67. In Eastern Orthodox, Valentine's Day is July 6th, which in other parts of the world, Eastern Orthodox, they write the date 6/7. We even had all these connections to the Chicago Cubs with the Stoneman Douglas shooting. Anthony Rizzo, a player for the Chicago Cubs, he is he number 44 too? But I don't even know. I'll re-look that up. But his birthday is 8/8, which is 6 months and 7 days before Valentine's Day. And the Cubs won the World Series 67 weeks exactly before the Stoneman Douglas shooting. And they beat the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians equals 67 in Gematria. I think about Chicago in regards to the last time there was a St. Valentine's Day massacre even. And that's why we got the death of Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park, because in 1929, the St. Valentine's Day massacre happened in Lincoln Park, Chicago. And it was all synced up to the moon. I have a bunch of videos on this as well. And I know Derek just made a video about this guy dying, and he talked about how it was synced up to the Great American Eclipse and whatnot. And he's absolutely right, because Stoneman Douglas was synced up to the moon as well. But I'll leave a link to his video, and I'll leave a link to, a bunch of other videos. They're a lot shorter than this and, more to the point. But Marjorie Stoneman Douglas even died at the age of 108. And remember, the Cubs broke the 108-year curse in 2016, and a bunch more. The Willis Tower there's 108 stories tall, and the Great Chicago Fire happened on 10/8, and 108 double stitches on a baseball. Much, much more going on with it. Even in 1929, the year of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, the Cubs made the World Series and lost, but that World Series began on October 8th, 10/8. This is big number with the Chicago Cubs. It's synced up to the moon and geometry. And what gematria is geometry within language. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Jewish gematria also equals 1969, like the year the eagle landed on the moon. Think about the Stoneman Douglas Eagles, just after the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and we had the Falcon Heavy launch that was synced up to, they did a tribute to David Bowie and the song Space Oddity that came out just days before the Eagle landed on the moon, and much, much more. And she died on 14/5. Chicago, Illinois equals 145. So there's this big connection to Chicago with all of this that's going on. And in regards to 17, if you remember, Chicago, the Cubs, they opened up their season against Miami, right? Where the Stoneman Douglas shooting was. And in that second game that they played this year, they did a tribute to the Stoneman Douglas victims. They had the 17-year-old come out and throw the first pitch. And then they did 17 minutes of silence. And the game went 17 innings. Unbelievable. The game went 17 innings. And it was scoreless until number 17, Chris Bryant, hit a home run. And then the game was won in the 17th by the guy named Rojas, who hit a home run. And he hit that home run 1 month and 7 days after his birthday. So tell me they don't use numbers synced up with sports. It's absolutely all scripted, all of this. So maybe I'll come back to some of that, but another interesting thing on this album, 17, the third single is called Fuck Love. Just think about that in regards to Valentine's Day, right? Fuck love, love, and Valentine's Day. That's why Philadelphia was important too, the city of brotherly love, and the prefix Phil means love. So, fuck love. And it comes out on his birthday even. The guy who dies birthday, XXX. And it also features this guy, Trippie Redd. And if you look up Trippie Redd, look when this guy died. He died on this guy's birthday, June 18th. What are the odds? He dies on this guy's 19th birthday of all birthdays. Valentine's equals, 67, the 19th prime. He dies on this guy's birthday that he has a song called Fuck Love with. And look what his name in Gematria equals. Trippie Redd, 173, exactly like XXXTentacion. The 40th prime number, Valentine's also equals 40. The other two singles on that 17 album were called Revenge and also Jocelyn Flores. And, what sticks out about it is that this song was a tribute to Jocelyn Flores, and then he had a whole other song called Jocelyn Flores. And when you research about it, you find out that there was a girl that he flew down to Florida, and then she supposedly committed suicide, and, he dedicated a bunch of stuff to her, basically. But if you look her up, you find out that she actually died on May 14th, the same day that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died. If this thing will work. Hold on one second. Well, for some reason I can't get it to get bigger, but you can see it right here, May 14th. These other ones, there's a whole bunch of them on the internet that say May 13th. And, if you read through them, though, it says the funeral services at the Barry McGreevy funeral. That's what this other one says too, the Barry McGreevy. And if you go to the Barry McGreevy website, it says May 14th. So, May 14th, the same day Marjorie Stoneman Douglas dies. Notice her name in Gematria equals 159, and the song up here, it's even 1 minute 59 in length, right? 159, and her name equals 159. Also, the song called Revenge, actually comes from a mixtape that he had as well. A mixtape that he had called Revenge. And would you believe, look at some of the songs on this mixtape. He has a song called Valentine, of all songs, on this mixtape. I've also been talking a lot about the King's symbolism, and he even remade the song King's Dead, right? That was synced up to LeBron James losing the NBA Finals this year. He also has a song called Slipknot. Slipknot, the band who... Go do yourself a favor and go to YouTube right now and look up Slipknot, the band, and their song called Gematria, the killing name. Why would they have a song named that? If people are dying by the numbers, Gematria, the killing name. I'll leave a link to that video in the description as well, because Their bass player, he died absolutely by the numbers. You know, Paul Gray equals 38. His nickname was the Pig equals 38. Gematria equals 38. You know, a bunch of other stuff with it. So he absolutely died by the numbers. The band The Police have a song called Murder by Numbers. They say 1, 2, 3. It's as easy as your ABCs. It came out in the year 83. The word murder equals 83. So, you know, what are the odds this guy's mixtape before he's famous? He has a song called Slipknot, you know, reminding us of Gematria, and also a song called Valentine. And then he dies absolutely in connection to Valentine's Day and the Stoneman Douglas shooting. Also, even the day that he died, or supposedly died, the Cubs, their game got postponed against the Dodgers. And it's hard to see, but they stayed on 40 wins, right? Valentine's equals 40. The Cubs have 40 wins. I've been documenting so many things about the Chicago Cubs lately. They they were even in the World Series in 1918, the year that World War One came to an end on 11/11 at 11, right? And what's interesting about that is that if you look that up, you find out that that's when it got popular to stand during the national anthem. You know, so game one of that World Series was when it was really popularized to stand during the national anthem, and they played the Boston Red Sox. So, you know, just lots of things. That's one of the big central themes that's going on right now, is the standing during the national anthem. Also, this Jocelyn Flores girl, she died 1 year, 1 month, and 4 days before XXX, and that's a lot like 114. And what I documented in 2016 was that the Cubs were in their 114th season being called the Cubs, and when they beat the Indians in Game 7, they got their 114th win of the season. The Indians coach Terry Francona, who had broke the curse with the Boston Red Sox, right? He was the coach of the Boston Red Sox, but when he lost in the World Series, it made him 11-4 in World Series. And think about the Red Sox playing them in the 1918 World Series as well. But, you know, a lot like 114. I talked about there was a Hoboken train wreck that year, and Chris Christie said there was 114 people that were injured, and that was the same day that the Cubs tied the Pirates, and the word tie equals 114. And Hoboken is where the first ever baseball game was supposedly played. And the last time that there was a tie in the major leagues was in 2005, when the Chicago White Sox won for the first time in 88 seasons, and Curse of the Billy Goat equaled 88, just like Anthony's Rizzo's birthday is 88. But they tied the Houston Astros, who lost to the Chicago White Sox in the World Series that year. They had the last tie since, and it was 114 days before the World Series, and they tied the Cincinnati Reds, and much, much more. There's a lot of synchronicity. My uncle, who died on January 14th, who was a big Cubs fan after the Cubs won, right? January 14th. He took his wife to a Cubs game for their 20th or 25th anniversary, wedding anniversary on 8/8 of 2005. And the Cubs played the Reds even. So lots of crazy synchronicity. You know, if you don't understand what I'm talking about with synchronicity, the same day that the Cubs won the World Series on November 2nd, that's when the game began, of 2016, there was a shooting in Des Moines, Iowa, that was, I used to live really close to where this shooting was, and it was on the Merle Hay Road, or by the Merle Hay Mall. And I mean, I lived just like, you know, a mile away, but I worked at Burger King that equaled 112, and it was the 112th World Series, and right across the street from where I worked was the 1908 Drought Bar, and the Cubs hadn't won a World Series since 1908, and we got this shooting that same day, like all synced up to where I used to live. And Merle Hay, what that road is named after, he is, they think, or if you look him up, you'll find out that he's probably the first person to die in World War One. And that is interesting to this year because it's the 114th World Series, and World War equals 114. And so does Pearl Harbor, and so does Holocaust. So it's really important to what I was documenting in 2016, yet again, to the Cubs and that number 114, and it's the 114th World Series. Even the two cops that died, both of their names equal the same as World War III. I'm going to skip over some of this, but check out the short film I Pet Goat 2 on YouTube, because there's so much symbolism in that, and it really is really synced up to the Chicago Cubs and the curse of the Billy Goat. It even starts off with the goat, and then it has the baseball lights, and then it has Obama, who's politically out of Illinois or Chicago, right? And then after Obama sweating, then they have the pink lotus flower open up and a bunch of stuff going on with it. And it's all about Valentine's Day. And, even on the board it says evil TN on the chalkboard, like the backwards of love. And, there's a ton of other stuff with it, but that whole film is seemingly about the return of Jesus as well, right? And Jesus Christ equals the same as Valentine's Day in Gematria. So absolutely synced up. That girl, Jocelyn Flores, then, if you go from the day the Cubs won, she died 193 days later, or also 6 months and 12 days. And the word Valentine in Sumerian Gematria equals 612. And 193 is even the 44th prime number, which is interesting. But remember, the Valentine's Day Massacre, Valentine equals 612, and the Pulse nightclub shooting that happened on 612 happened exactly 612 days before the Stoneman Douglas shooting. And what, can't even remember them all. Something to do with Sandy Hook was 612, and then Dune Blaine Massacre was 612. We just had Trump meeting Kim Jong-un on 612. Lots and lots of important stuff. That girl's full name, Jocelyn Amparo Flores, equals 88 and 223. Identical to Curse of the Billy Goat even. I have a video about Bill Murray too, from before the World Series, talking about the Cubs winning or being in the World Series, and how it was synced up to Valentine's Day and the number 67. So Bill Murray even equals 67. William Murray equals 67. That's why in Space Jam, when he comes in, they change the score from 67 to 76, like for no reason whatsoever. He turned 67 years old, I think in 2017, on the date numerology of 67. I know it's all over the place, but also I pointed out that this XXX guy, he died 4 months and 5 days before the World Series begins this year. And, the curse of the Billy Goat happened in the year 45. Valentine's the 45th day of the year. Cubs equal 45. Wrigley equals 45. Illinois equals 45. Miami equals 45. The Cubs sweep Miami and Back to the Future. And in 2015, when they were supposed to win, right? The Cubs were supposed to win. They actually got knocked out of the playoffs on Back to the Future Day. Oh, the odds. Also, in regards to all the 17 that I talked about earlier, if you write out 17, it equals 46, just like Chicago Cubs. Remember the 1985-86 Super Bowl when the Bears won with 46 points, and they used the revolutionary 4-6 defense, and they beat the Patriots to equal 46. Ton of stuff, So ridiculous. The reason I brought up 46 is just because, this story is just the same type of conspiracy stuff that they always get people riled up over. And, just like Pizzagate. They get you all riled up, and then it's all, Pizzagate is just a contrived thing, like, it was all about finding the emails or looking through the emails of Anthony Weiner And then the other guy, David Seaman. I mean, what a joke. Or remember the Franklin prostitution ring? And one of the main kids in that was named Troy Boner. And he's supposedly getting molested, and his last name's Boner. It's just so ridiculous. But all of these things, they make them so obviously stupid, you know? Like the Alton Sterling shooting, they originally just showed the one camera, and then they showed another camera, and it was pointing exactly where the other guy was supposed to be standing, and he wasn't standing there. And then people still don't get it. I don't understand. Like, why, they make it so obvious on purpose, though. Like, there's no guy standing there, but somehow, it had to be filmed twice. And people still argue over stuff like that. And even like the Bridgewater shooting, right? I can't even show it to you because they deleted my video and I have to go find it. But originally they showed a white guy standing there, and you could see his whole body aiming at her and shooting at her. And then it turned out to be a black guy. And you couldn't even see his whole face, according to the way he fell. Even if you slowed down the video, it shouldn't even have showed his whole face. But originally they were showed us a white guy standing there, and you could see the whole body and everything. Because they're just messing with people's minds and getting people to go crazy over this stuff. I don't understand the full purpose of it all. Even 9/11 was the same way. They tell us that the buildings and the planes melt, but then they find box cutters and turbines that don't melt, I guess, apparently. And just tons of stuff with 9/11 they've wanted people to see. Even just stupid stuff like Kyrie Irving believing in the flat earth. Well, Kyrie Irving, its reason is because the flat earth got popular again because of a guy named Washington Irving who has the same gematria as flat earth theory. So they put it all in your face, and that's what this guy did. Like, absolutely, because if you go on YouTube, you can find him talking about how Drake was trying to sacrifice him, and he kept saying the word sacrifice, making it very obvious that he was talking about, the Illuminati, right? And he just kept saying the word sacrifice. If I'm gonna die or ever be a sacrifice, and he said it on multiple things. You can find it on YouTube. And he's talking about how Drake was gonna sacrifice him, right? And in Gematria, sacrifice equals 46, just like when you read out the word 17, just like Chicago Cubs. But look at this. Drake, the rapper, if you go from the day that XXX died to Drake the rapper's birthday, 4 months and 6 days. And then the word sacrifice equals 46 of Gematria. It's also 128 days, and their original beef supposedly came out on January 28th, a lot like 128. And it's also 11 days before Drake releases this new album called Scorpion, and Scorpion equals 46 of Gematria. And so much more. There's this new Drake song that came out, and he says SMS triple X. That's the only time I ever shoot below the neck, right? People are saying, well, he's saying he's going to kill him. Well, I don't know. I don't understand the lyrics that much, but it's interesting. He says triple X, and it's on the song called I'm Upset that equals 40, just like Valentine's. Drake was also born on Black Thursday, October 24th. Black Thursday equals the same as sacrifice. In Jewish Gematria, it equals 206. And also Chicago Cubs equal 206. And you know that the XXX guy knew about numbers because he even has a song on one of his albums. It's track number 8, and he calls it 888 Infinity, right? Because if you look up into numerology, you know, whatever. An 8 is infinity, right? It's never ending. It's the Ouroboros. It's the snake eating its tail. If you flip it over, it's the infinity symbol. So you know that he understands a whole lot of stuff. They don't let people on. They don't let people know as much as what I'm talking about in this video. And just lastly in this video, so this guy, supposedly he has this face tattoo, but it's like super hard to find. He supposedly has this, and I wondered if it was photoshopped, and then I got on YouTube and I found these videos of his live performance from March 18th, and he completely has a tattoo there. And this picture doesn't do it justice, but if you look up this and you look at it, it really looks like that tattoo on his face. And then in the what he supposedly died here, there's no tattoo on his face. And people are saying, oh, it's the lighting, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to argue that because that's what they're trying to do. If you go watch this clip, there's a clip where the doors are open in the car and then the doors are shut. You know, and they like skipped over a bunch of stuff. So they're just messing with people's minds, you know. This guy's probably not even dead whatsoever. It's just the same thing with Alton Sterling. They give you you know, they give you the shooting of him, and then they give you another one that makes absolutely no sense with no guy standing there. And that's what they're trying to do, confuse people. Then they're saying that the sun, sorry, the sun is making it to where you can't see his tattoo. I mean, what they're doing is they're making it obvious. They're telling you that he was a sacrifice, right? He kept saying that. You're getting people riled up about sacrifice. And then they do this in two different things, and then one of them they make it look like he has a tattoo, and the other one he doesn't. You know, it probably was never a real tattoo put on there or something. This one looks a lot brighter and bigger than all the other ones anyway. You know, it looks like it's Photoshop. So, interesting that he does have something on here. They just try to make it super confusing for people. You know, that's the way these things work. They want people awake, but to a certain extent. And then they want people to argue over certain things. That's why they, you know, put Donald Trump in office, because Donald Trump is trying to supposedly take down the corrupt politicians and whatever else, when really he's just all part of it. The guy wins you know, we're told he wins the election on the anniversary of the Berlin Wall coming down. The guy who wants to build the wall. Donald Trump equals 48, wall equals 48. The Mexican-American War ended in the year 48. They come out with movies like The Wall and The Great Wall of China, and LeBron James's game show TV called The Wall, just after Donald Trump is elected. So, you know, just know, this guy, he's in Jamaica sipping daiquiris with Tupac. You know, Tupac was one of the big ones. Tupac, they even brought out numerology a whole lot, you know, with his death. They never bring out Gematria, really, but they always let you know that there's something to do with numbers. 911, right? 911, the emergency dialing code, and then we get 911, or, you know, George Bush and John Kerry both running for president, and they're both in Skull and Bones, they tell us, and then, you know, they talk about 322, you know. They're always letting us know about numerology and how numbers are important, but they don't ever fully tell people, like, what is going on with it. You know, they don't tell you that Tupac Shakur and Gematria equals 139, just like Freemasonry, but he also supposedly died on 13/9. Instead, they tell you a bunch of stuff like, you know, he was shot at 4:03, you know, that equals 7, and he died 7 days after being shot, and he had the album called The 7-Day Theory, and, you know, they do a bunch of stuff like that, but they never tell you that if you code letters into numbers or numbers into letters, that it syncs up just as well. You know, or it syncs up to the calendar, such as his final album, All Eyes on Me. It came out on 2/13, and then he died 213 days later even. Think about the 213 area code, you know? So, I think even the word death equals 213 in satanic gematria, so super important. So, I'm going to end the video here. Just wanted to show a bunch of stuff and show that a lot of this is just contrived stuff, and they love to mess with people's minds in these stories, and they do different angles, and they just get people to sit here and try to figure out this puzzle over and over. If you learn Gematria, you can just absolutely see that, I mean, some of that stuff does matter. You know, it'd be awesome if you could prove that he had a face tattoo and then, or prove that you couldn't see it or this or that. I mean, it looks pretty obvious that he doesn't have one and that when he died. So, you know, it's just confusing. That's all it is. But if you see the Gematria, you see that it's all scripted by the numbers. And every day it's like this, you know what I mean? Our mainstream media is always coded this way. Our, you know, celebrities die constantly by this system. It's nothing new. And the Stoneman Douglas shooting is really important. It was super important to the space theme, like I said. And then today, even, we had a book released by David Hogg, right? The Valentine's Day gun control guy, or the kid. And then Donald Trump comes out and on the same day that this guy dies and says that he wants to add Space Force to the military, right? Space Force to the military. And Space Force equals 44, 91, military equals 44, space equals 91, asteroid 91, rockets 91, Apollo 91, the space race came to an end in the year 91. So, Make America Great Again equals 91, Chicago Cubs equal 91. Just throw that in here because I talked about the Cubs a lot. Not necessarily connected, but have a good one. Learn to apply this for yourself. Peace.